Hi, Kelly Eckholt here to update you with the key events of the week. So this week we got a bit of interesting data on house prices, parts of the CPI, and also inward migration tell us a little bit about how the economy is persisting. With respect to house prices, we actually saw a pretty flat month for prices. Sales volumes did pick up a bit from the really low levels seen back in January, but generally that's a market that's not really doing very much at the moment, which is not really too much of a surprise. With respect to migration, we can still see that population pressures are persisting. We're still very much surfing the peak of that historic inward migration wave, and indeed it seems quite likely that we're going to have to upgrade our forecast for inward migration over the next few months, reflecting the strength of the data that we've seen of late. The other thing that happened is we got some information on the CPI, which has actually led us to upgrade our forecast for the first quarter CPI when it's going to be released in April. We now see the CPI increasing by 0.8% for the quarter, which is going to be almost twice the Reserve Bank's estimate of 0.4%. And that upgrade reflected the fact that while food prices fell a bit more than we expected, some important categories such as international airfares and accommodation booked by New Zealanders overseas for holidays was pretty robust. This means that when we get to that CPI, annual growth in inflation is still going to be 4 point something as opposed to 3 point something, which is going to continue to keep the Reserve Bank a bit on edge. In general, we think with respect to interest rates, the Reserve Bank will see this data as absolutely consistent with their view that the OCR needs to remain at 5.5% in 2024. And with respect to that migration data, it does raise some pretty interesting questions in terms of just how strong that labour market is, given that if overseas people are still coming here to work and live, they must have a reasonable expectation of finding employment here. I'll be back to update you again next week.